This is the Python series part 13. Now let's discuss the looping concept in Python language. So what is the usage of loop? Loop is used to repeat a block of code till the specified condition is met. Okay. And what are the types of loops? We have only two types, while loop and for loop. Now we will discuss one by one. While loop. Here this is the example program for while loop. I have the while keyword and then the condition and the colon, and here we have the indentation. We already know the indentation is used to indicate the block of code. These two statements belongs to while block. Okay, and here after the evaluation of this expression we will get either true or false. If it returns true means the control comes inside the while loop and execute these two statements. And again the control jumps from the fourth line to second line. Okay. Again the expression will be evaluated. Again it returns either true or false. If it returns false means what happens? The while loop will be terminated. So why we need this type of loop means code reusability. Okay, there is no need to write these two statements again and again for 10 times. Okay, that's why we need the looping concepts. Okay, now let me execute this one. So this is the result from 10 to 1. Okay, so here the value of count is 11. I apply the value of count here. 11 greater than 1 returns true. Means what happens? The control comes inside the while block and the count value will be updated to 10 because here 11 minus 1 returns only 10. So now the value of count is 10. Now this print statement is used to print this count value on our console. That's why we got 10 here. Okay, and the control goes from fourth line to second line. Again this expression will be evaluated. Okay, now the value of count is 10. 10 greater than 1 returns again true. Means what happens? The control comes inside the while block and the count value will be updated. So what is the value of count now? 10 minus 1, 9. This print statement print the 9 on our console like this. Okay, this process is going on. Okay, we got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now the value of count is 1. Again, the control jumps from the fourth line to the second line. Okay, 1 greater than 1 returns false. False means what happens? The while loop will be terminated. That's why we got values from 10 to 1 only. Because when the value of count becomes 1 at the time the loop is terminated. Okay. This is the execution flow of the while loop. I hope you all understand. And the range method. So this is the inbuilt method. This method returns the sequence of numbers. Here this method takes two parameters. One is the start and this is the end value. Okay. So the third parameter is the step value. If we didn't provide any step value means the default value is only 1. Okay. So in this case, what is the result? 1, 2, 3, 4 only. That is the start value is included but the end value is not included. So we will get the sequence of numbers from 1 to 4 only. Okay. So the default step value is only 1. Okay, so the difference between the first and second number is 1. Let me execute this one. Then only you can understand easily. Here, 1 is the start value and 5 is the end value. So the range, that is the sequence of numbers from 1 to 4 only because this end value is not included. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the range method always returns the map object. So here I have used the list inbuilt method. Okay, so this list method returns the list object. Inside the square brackets we have the sequence of numbers. And here I have used the tuple object. So the output of this statement returns the tuple. Inside the round brackets, we have the set of elements. What object is this? This is the tuple, because here I have given the tuple. And here I have given the step value as 1. So here I change this 1 to 2. Now again I execute this one. Here 1 and 3. The first value and the second value difference is this step value. Okay, so 3 minus 1, 2 only. If I give 9 instead of 5, what is the result? 1, 3, 5, 7 only. Okay, this end value is not included. So 1 plus 2, 3, 3 plus 2, 5, 5 plus 2, 7, 7 plus 2, 9. So this end value is not included. That's why we got these numbers alone. Got it? And it returns the tuple object. And here I have given the negative number as the step value. Okay. So this is also possible. So here what happens, the start value is 5, the end value is 1. So the end value is not included and this is the step value. So the first value is 5, second value 5 minus 1, 4, third value 4 minus 1, 3 and the fourth value 3 minus 1, 2. Okay, fifth value 2 minus 1, 1, but that is the end value, so that value is not included. Got it? And it returns the list only. Inside the square brackets, we have the set of or sequence of numbers. And here I have used the for loop. Okay, this for loop is used to repeat a block of code for a given range. In this example, we have used the range. Okay, in this case, we have the start value is 1, the end value is 13 and the step value is 3. Okay, so this range returns 1, 4, 7 and 10. For the first iteration, the first number will be stored inside the I variable. That is, number 1 will be stored inside the I variable. That value will be printed. That's why we got 1 here. For the second iteration, 1 plus 3, because this is the step value. So 1 plus 3, 4. Okay, that is the second element of the range method. So that 4 will be stored inside the I variable and that value will be printed. The third iteration, the 4 plus 3, 7. That is the element of the sequence. That 7 will be stored inside the I variable and that value is printed like this. Okay, and the 7 plus 3 returns 10. That is the fourth element of this range method. So that element will be stored inside the I variable and that value will be printed. That's why we got 10 here. In this example, I have used the tuple object. Names is the tuple object. Okay. So here inside the round brackets, we have 4 elements. For the first iteration of this for loop, what happens? The I takes the first element of this names tuple object. So what is the value? Ram will be printed. And the second iteration, the second element will be stored inside the I, that value will be printed. The third iteration, Ramanan, will be stored inside the I variable and the Ramanan will be printed. And the fourth iteration, Kala, will be stored inside the I variable and the Kala will be printed. Okay, this is the outside of the for loop. So that code also will be executed. Now let me execute this one. Ram, Priya, Ramanan, Kala and thank you. So this is outside of the for loop. Okay, using this for loop, we can iterate the sequence related object. So in this example, we have used the range method. In this example, we have used the tuple object. If we want to use the list object means we can. Okay, so this is the tuple object. The next one, nested for loop. So what is nested for loop? A loop is placed inside the another loop. This type of structure is called the nested loop. Okay. So for each and every execution of the outer loop, the inner loop will be executed all its iteration. Okay, this is the execution flow of the nested loop. So here range method returns how many numbers? 1 and 2, because here this is start value, this is end value, but this end value won't be included. So the step value, the default value is 1 only. So the range method returns only 2 numbers, 1 and 2. For the first iteration, I takes the first value 1. Okay, and the control comes inside the inner for loop, and here I have used the range method. So this range method returns the same 1 and 2. Okay, and here for the first iteration of the inner loop, it prints the I value and j value. So 1 and 1 will be printed. After the execution of this statement, the control goes to the inner for loop only. So the second element 2 will be stored inside this j variable, and the control comes inside the inner for loop. The I value is 1, j value is not 2. So 1 and 2 will be printed. Okay. So now the inner for loop execute all its execution. Okay. After complete it all execution only, the control goes outside of the inner loop. Now the value of I is 2. Okay, that is the second element. So this 2 will be stored inside the I variable, and the control comes inside the outer for loop, and this is the inner for loop. Again it starts to execute. Okay, now the first iteration j value is 1. Okay, and the control comes inside the inner for loop, and the values of I and j will be printed. That is, I value is 2, j value is 1. Okay, and the control goes from third line to second only, because we know already after the execution of all iterations of inner for loop only, the control goes outside. Okay, and this is the second iteration of the for loop. So what is the value of j now? 2. So the control comes inside the inner for loop, and the value of I and j will be printed. That is, I value is 2 and j value is also 2. Okay, and the control terminate the inner loop and go to the outer loop. Here also there is no element. We have only 2 elements. Those 2 elements already we have used. Now there is no element for iterations. So what happens? The outer loop also will be terminated. Now let me execute this one. Here for the first iteration of outer for loop, I value is 1. For the first iteration of inner for loop, j value is 1. So 1, 1 is printed. Okay. And here for the second iteration of the inner for loop, we got the 2. Okay. This is the I value. So we have only 1. And then the second iteration of outer loop, I value is 2. And the first iteration of inner loop, j value is 1. So 2, 1 is printed. And then the second iteration of I and the second iteration of j. So I and j values are 2, 2. So that's why we got 2, 2 here. Okay. I hope you all understand. So now we have completed the while loop, for loop, range method and nested loop.